welcome everybody to our second Women in Salesforce meetup. Just as a bit of a background behind Women in Tech, myself and a few colleagues at Third Republic founded the group as a platform for women working in the world of tech to share, help, and encourage their peers. Since its inception last October, we've grown to a community of over 1,500 members in our US meetup group. Our focus is to make technology a more attractive and inclusive working environment for all. The speakers we have joining us this evening are Karen Lee and Jen Kleinfeld. They will both expand a little bit more on their introductions there. They are both incredibly experienced and successful women working in Salesforce. I'd like to welcome Karen Lee to take the floor. Thank you, Karen, for joining us again.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Lee. I am the Salesforce Practice Director at Saberpoint. And for those of you that are not aware of who Saberpoint is a recognized IT consulting partner of Salesforce. Today, I want to actually cover the topic of the power of growing your network in the Salesforce ecosystem. And I kind of want to share my personal journey as to how I went from a very introverted, shy individual to understanding and harnessing the power of networking. And I wanted to kind of share those values with you, as well as some quantitative statistics to kind of help all of you to kind of understand my journey, as well as if there's any information that I can share to kind of help you with your journey as well. So let me start by sharing a bit of background on myself. I came from a lower middle class family. My personality is, as I mentioned before, is fairly introverted. Networking really doesn't come very natural to me. In my early careers, my ideal work persona is actually being an individual contributor, focusing on personal development, and the most interaction that I would prefer with my colleagues is small talk at the water cooler and just kind of call it a day. But throughout my career, others have kind of invited me to events and pushed me to network. I've never really understood the true value of it. It just always made me feel extremely uncomfortable. And the only time when I do go network or when I do go to events, I actually feel much more comfortable in the corner. But I was actually very blessed throughout my journey to have a lot of mentors in my life. They have provided me a lot of opportunities, and through the course of time, I knew that the mentors have shaped me into who I ultimately am today. And how I view myself is very different than how I viewed myself when I kind of started my career journey. So yeah, it basically shaped me for who I ultimately am today. And it kind of transformed me into like a manager and kind of giving me a lot of confidence to take on any type of initiative. I've never felt a point in time where I've kind of reached the glass ceiling. I've never felt a point in time where, something is beyond my control or reach. So, during mid-30s, I wanted to kind of give back to the network. And when I kind of understand what that meant, my first intention of networking was to kind of share what my mentors have taught me over time. And then I co-founded and co-led Women in Technology at Standard & Poor's as an equality group. So back then when I was working in Standard & Poor's, that was my first led effort to actually get that started. And then through that, I met a lot of amazing people. And then a couple of years back, actually, when I started working at Saberpoint as a director of the practice, I truly grasped the power of networking. I realized I needed to have a broader reach of people in order to effectively do my job. I think before I took on the job, I probably didn't realize that that was the case. I realized that I needed mentors. I needed people with different skill sets, people with diverse backgrounds, clients with interest, friends, and support groups, really. So, my best initial network were friends that I've kind of obtained throughout the ecosystem to kind of support me through this job and and offered me advice whenever I needed it. But then, during my time at Saberpoint, I kind of gained amazing friendship relationships throughout this ecosystem, and it has given me the ability to refer opportunities for others, share knowledge, establish connections with clients, and personally develop myself. The Salesforce network is actually an amazing network. When I was in corporate, the network of individuals is definitely nowhere as generous as the Salesforce ecosystem. The Salesforce ecosystem, everyone is very generous with their time and knowledge. If you just basically, I want to say, if you find one person out of like probably two, someone will always share information with you. When I was in corporate and when I had the Women in Technology group, everyone's just coming at me asking me for a job. So everyone had some personal self-interest involved. Whereas this one, I actually don't feel that at all. I think in terms of networking, it's more of a series of connection for everyone, and not so much a personal interest. So I think when we talk about networking, a lot of us kind of think about it in many different ways. We kind of think about it, is it a platform to land your next job? Is it to increase sales, make new friends, be influential? I think I still haven't grasped the networking value so much yet in terms of the social media visibility and blogs, or maybe just even understanding networking, with all of those above aspects. But it's truly more of an ecosystem. I mean, there are a lot of benefits to networking, but I kind of wanted to share the ones that are, relevant, for me and what I've kind of learned through the whole process. One thing is I find that I get a lot of new ideas from networking with people. You can never actually tell how much you know without listening to other people. Just, I think, by a self-definition, you always basically give yourself a lot of confidence to tell yourself you know a lot of information. But you don't really know what you're missing unless you kind of talk to other people. And in terms of like a success in a career, it's really how much information that you have learned over time and some of the ideas that you have captured from other people that makes up who you are today. The next value, make it as easy as possible for people to recommend you. Over the years, I never actually looked for a job. I've only been recommended through the network for my next opportunity. So when you kind of start noticing, when people start noticing you kind of open doors for a lot of newer opportunities. There are business-minded individuals who networked over time and kind of been able to expand with minimal effort because they already have a network, and they can move a lot faster than those that don't have a network. Improve your creativity. I think for us in the Salesforce ecosystem, it's not so much about, I think, improving creativity per se, but we run into a lot of issues when we implement a platform, when we think of specific solutions for a client's current situation. There are a lot of challenges on the technical front and on the application front. So I've always been able to kind of get through some of those issues with reaching out to those that are much stronger than me, whether it's through the specific clouds or through their longer term experience with development. And over time, that has actually allowed me to also gain that level of knowledge and share it with others as well. Develop long-lasting relationships. I think this one, a lot of people would probably find it hard to achieve because a lot of times when we kind of think about networking is more like acquaintances that you don't know, and you would probably have to invest quite a bit of time to grow that network. But I think, if you kind of tailor your networking in an effective way, you actually don't have to invest that much time. There are people that are very like-minded, and then, you have this mutual give and take relationship. You have people that actually want to share information with you. And that's kind of how you build the long-lasting relationships, by harvesting on those that want that relationship and not going after the people that don't want the relationship. And you kind of see it when you reach out to someone that is maybe a CEO of a company, and the CEO potentially thinks that you're just going after them for a potential sale. Those aren't the ones that you kind of can build a long-lasting relationships, because there's already a connotation that you might just be networking with him just to get that next sale. So these are all personal opinions. So, and then I kind of want to share some of the quantitative statistics. I think I got these from Editor's Choice. And when I first saw these statistics, I actually think it's pretty high. But then when I think back about, what I've learned throughout my career, it probably makes sense. So when I think about 85% of positions are filled through networking. If you think about it, that means if you just go ahead and apply for a position online knowing no one, you have only 15% chance of getting through that first screening. And, a lot of times people would ask me like, oh, how do I submit a resume and not fall into that black hole? And even for myself, just being a manager for quite some time, I always actually have a person in mind for a particular position. And I just have to post it out externally because there's a HR regulation that I have to put out the job posting externally for 7 days before I can pull it back to hire someone within the network. 95% of professionals consider face-to-face communication vital for long-term business. This one, I absolutely agree that no matter what happens, face-to-face communication gains the most trust. Unfortunately, now we're in the pandemic, and the only thing we can really do is kind of just turn on our cameras. But you kind of can feel like if you just don't turn on the camera, you don't turn on the video, you don't see that level of interaction, that level of trust has decreased. But I'm not exactly sure, how much more trust you can gain from putting the video on versus less. I think now, because we're in a pandemic, I think these networking statistics will probably be different, and maybe more left up to maybe a year or 2 years from now, we can probably see new statistics. 38% of professionals find it difficult to maintain their business relationships. So this is definitely true. Networking shouldn't be like, how many people can I talk to in one day? It should be very thoughtful. You should try to, understand the value for the individual first before understanding the value for yourself. Because once you kind of give your hand out to somebody, I guarantee you they will return it. And, there's no need to like do it by pure number. Because at the end of the day, if you're not in sales, touching all these people don't really mean that much to you if they're not effective and they're not strong relationships. 70% of people found jobs through connections in a company. So this is true because I think majority of the networking is within the companies themselves. It's rarely that you kind of see people purposely going out to network in a high frequency. People kind of network within the company, maybe go to another department and, introduce themselves to another colleague, or, a friend of a friend of a colleague. So it's always kind of interconnected, and not so much, how we potentially think about, oh, there's a lot of meetups or there's a lot of events and I need to go to these events because that's where everyone is doing that. And it's not really the case, because I think it's really insightful to kind of go to these events and meet some people, but it's not a majority of people are actually doing that or finding a network through that process. companies earning $12.50 for every dollar invested in a face-to-face meeting. This is, I can tell you, yes, you definitely get more value for your projects when you invest in face-to-face meetings. I don't know about $12.50, but just my experience, you do get a higher contract value purely because the face-to-face meeting has given a level of trust to the client, and they know that you will kind of be more invested in them and be there for them when they need. 39% socialize more online than in person. This one, I think it's definitely gonna go up. There are a lot of different personalities, and some personalities feel absolutely comfortable or more comfortable, especially in the tech space, to be fully remote. And the times where we used to go on client sites all the time, or feel like remote employees are at a disadvantage because they're not necessarily in front of the client all the time. I think that has definitely passed. That mindset has definitely passed. So if anything, we purely socialize online now. There's no real in-person socialization. And I don't see anything potentially negative or changed through the business because of that. So I think it's perfectly fine. And the close rate for face-to-face meeting is 40%. I don't know about 40%, but when I went on the field, it's definitely a very, very quicker close rate to be in person than it is to kind of churn the sales cycle through remote or online. So I kind of wanted to share, some Salesforce networking group. All of these groups are actually great. We have feature groups. Feature groups are primarily Salesforce user groups. They are groups that are tied to every city and location, but they're actually user-based. And then we have Salesforce events. So Salesforce events are more cloud-based, held by Salesforce, whereas the feature groups are kind of are affiliated with Salesforce, but they're not created by Salesforce. So if we look at Salesforce events, they have like MuleSoft events, Pardot events. That's where you get your Trailhead DX, and definitely sign up for these events and start networking with people. You actually, the best part about the Salesforce ecosystem is it's not as big as you think it is. You're seeing the same people pretty much all the time, and you can probably form stronger relationships just because you actually see them all the time. And then sign up for local meetup groups like Third Republic. Third Republic, it's a great forum. I actually met a lot of amazing people at the Third Republic forum. I try to come here all the time. One of the best people I've met is actually on this meeting. But yeah, I've established a lot of strong relationships through the Third Republic network. And definitely thank you, Kara. Thank Tom, Kiro. It's just been an amazing journey for myself, being at Saberpoint and being in this friendship / working relationship with Third Republic.
Thank you, Karen. We're pleased to have made your acquaintance. I look forward to our meetups and seeing friendly faces. I think that I can echo your sentiment that it is a lot of, you'll start to see familiar faces, and that you have common interests, and it's very easy to make those connections in person. So we did have a couple of questions. One of them was, how do you stay connected even when networking? And I think that refers to the follow-up in terms of, what methods do you use, especially now when we're not able to safely meet in person, to keep up to speed with the people in your network and the people that you've made the acquaintance of through various different, forums.
Yeah, I'm actually, I have a very structured way of doing it. So every month, I try to make sure that all of my network are actually in LinkedIn. And every month I would set out one day to tap all of them. And just to make sure that they, that we at least keep in touch. Most of the time it's just very like, yeah, I'm good, it's great, or same thing, but at least they know that you're still there. And then when they need anything, they will actually realize that you're there for them because you just engaged with them every month. And vice versa. I see people tapping into me all the time, but I try to do it in a way where it doesn't cannibalize too much of my time.
That's fantastic advice. Our next question, thank you very much for that, Karen, is about, I think you might have touched on this earlier, about from a partial introvert, how did you overcome the initial anxiety of putting yourself out there to network?
Oh my goodness. I remember, okay, I'll give you a story. I was so scared, okay, on my first year in the job, they asked me if I wanted to be a fire warden. And I was too scared to say no, so I said yes. And then when there was a fire practice, I went to hide because I was that introverted, that scared. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't want to like talk to the person that was doing the fire drill. I didn't want to go and hunt down for people I don't even know to make sure that they line up, to do the fire drill. And I think over time, I think really for me is maturity. I was just not confident. I was not confident on who I am. I was scared of being judged. And I think when I gained the confidence is taking small steps at a time. Like, I did my job well. Okay, so I don't have to focus on that. I didn't speak well, right? So I got to practice on my presentation. So it's very incremental. And for me, specifically, I think it's really maturity. And the mentors that actually told me, they would actually critique me pretty tough. They would push me out there, and I didn't mind. They definitely shot my confidence multiple times. But I think, over time, it just gave me the confidence to be out there networking. You know what, to be honest, I don't like it still. It's not something I like. I rather just open up the TV and watch TV. I rather play games. But the relationship that I have established, like if you think about it, Kara, right? Like I can just call you up. I don't have to go anymore onto like LinkedIn and go, hey, Kara, how are you doing? Because I know you'll be there and I'll be there, right? So at some point in time, those relationships grow and you don't have to actually spend as much time anymore. You just know that you guys are all going to be there in the back.
Fantastic. And I agree with you. It definitely is a maturity thing. And then our last question, how do you do in person with COVID going on? Most people are not meeting in person right now. And for us, it's all virtual.
Yeah, so I have to kind of assess the client's site. So for me, it's all virtual as well. I don't put any of our consultants at risk to go on any client sites. It's just, depending for me specifically, if I feel like that client needs more handholding. Some clients just need a lot of handholding. No matter how many times you say it to them, remotely or virtually, it just doesn't really help. But then I basically make sure that, it's not a large group of people that I'm meeting with, and then when I'm out there, just make sure that I take a very tight agenda and ensure that the time is actually effective.
Thank you, Karen, for speaking tonight. At this point, Karen, if you have nothing else to add on, we'll pass it over to Jen.
Good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for coming to my presentation on thoughtful lightning design. Who are those records for anyway? So first, a little bit about myself. Hey, I'm a Salesforce admin. I have both my admin and app builder certifications. I've been an admin for a little over 5 years, starting out in sales operations. My journey with Salesforce began by recommending Salesforce to the startup that I was working with at the time to manage their high growth sales. Quickly, I fell in love with it and how you can solve business problems and with declarative tools. I decided to become an admin and then moved on to Joule as a business analyst, doing configuration and development to work on a large established Salesforce enterprise team. Getting the opportunity to learn from both sides, the small business and the large, has been good for me. It's given me perspective into the lightning design that we as admins create and use, and I wanted to share what I learned with you today. Many of the ideas that I'm presenting are from Salesforce and other admins, developers and designers. I wanted to give them credit for sharing their knowledge and thank them for being so unselfish in this. Something else I wanted to share with you is that I'm a mother, a wife, a daughter, and a sister. Salesforce Ohana has been supportive and instrumental in helping me reach my goals. I will be forever thankful for the opportunities that Salesforce and groups like this have given me. From elementary through high school, I was heavily involved in art, taking classes and entering art contests. That interest in the visual aspect of something has stayed with me and influences my thinking when I build or customize a Lightning page or a new app. I find myself, like I did when approaching a canvas or a sketch pad, thinking about the story I was going to tell and the composition of the images on the page. What medium should I use? What colors? Am I painting a big idea or a very specific moment? What story do I want to tell? When designing in Lightning, we are doing just that, acting as artists in a way, to use the medium, Salesforce's tools to bring understanding and tell a story. I thought I would touch on some aspects of what good design is. So good design is aesthetic, it's understandable, has purpose, and removes non-essentials. Here we have the Apple iPhone from Steve Jobs, which has gone through quite a few iterations over the years, but is still loved and used by millions. Apparently, like 46% of the people who use smartphones use Apple iPhones. There's also an aesthetic, beautiful home in South Africa, which you can see. The architect has thought about space, placement, usage, and functionality. All these things apply to Lightning design. Then you have the iconic but perfect Oreos. It's the perfect treat. You can eat it in 2 bites, dunk it in milk, string out your enjoyment by taking it apart, share it with others. Even in the Oreo cookie, they've maximized the design of the product. But like Oreos, they have over time also provided different customizations to it, depending on what the users need. There are now over 25 different flavors of Oreos. I was shocked to find this out, but not surprised because it's so good. To get a good design, it's important to know what the needs are. Good design, and breaking down these ideas, you have to have certain qualities in order to make it successful. So it's important that it's aesthetic, a design that has quality impact and affects who's using it when people are interacting with your design. It needs to be understandable so you can clarify the structure of the work. It needs to have purpose with success in mind. And also, you need to design as little as possible. It is important to not burden the page with non-essential aspects. Also, not burden your system with technical debt. This last is something I'm always personally struggling with. I have a creative mind and I'm a problem solver. So my instinct is to provide both in design. But I have to always step back and ask myself, does this really need to be there? And is it truly essential? So with each change of viewpoint, there are different needs. How does your change affect different parts of the company and the business relationships that intersect? The user wants to be able to efficiently understand and use the functionality on the page without friction to get their work done. The customer wants to be able to receive the result of that work in a method that is easy, efficient, and accurate, so that they can move to the next thing and grow their own business. Then the business wants both of these things, but they also want to maximize their investment in Salesforce, and they want to free up time so that the simple, repetitive tasks are easily done, and so that their employees and customers can spend time working on more valuable things. With your implementations and design functionality, you need to provide value to these areas. When you translate this improved efficiency, you can identify some of the value you're bringing. You can see here in the first example what just 5-second improvement gains for a company. It's 5 seconds, 40 tasks a day, over 261 working days a year, 50 employees, over 4,300 hours saved, and $217,000. The dollars saved are quite substantial, especially as your company scales. And if you balance that against what they're compensating you, already you've given back on their investment. This is just the time value. It does not include gain, talent, and asset availability, or even the resources that are now opened up for resolving more complex problems or growth. So what are some things you can do to enable these outcomes during a project? You can provide that value with thoughtful design by asking just the right questions, just like an artist does when creating. Who is it for? How will it be used? What are your challenges? Those determine the kinds of answers you get. Like a successful masterpiece, you need collaboration and mindfulness. Don't just be listening for the answer that you think they should have. Really listen to what they're saying and try to understand it. Translate it to a good solution. Each project, as we know, starts with a user story and project scope. The questions and answers you get, collaborating with others, listening to what they're saying, listening to the challenges they want to remove, those help drive the choices. Involve your stakeholders, understand what the implications are for, and leverage the right tools. I'm sure you've all heard their pain points. I hate it when I have 3 apps to close a deal, or why can't I get an update when my customer's product's shipped? Or why do I have to scroll through all these lists? Or I don't need to look at this, John's support uses it. Or where's the pipeline? I have a meeting in 10 minutes. As you can see, these are different people needing different things. Different users have different needs. Just like with an artist, you have different customers coming in to look at your work. They all have different reasons for being there at that moment. Salesforce breaks them down into personas. There are a few trails in Trailhead on this if you would like to learn more. And I'd recommend mapping your users by persona to understand what their needs are when you're making changes and designing. Consider creating different record pages for different users or functionality. Here we have 5 different sales personas with a goal of increasing sales to drive business forward. But they all have different needs in getting there. Who is using the data that is being generated? How do they use it? And what will they be doing with it? What value do all these people need? How do you decide what to design? Personas help make you better decisions about your roadmap and the right design for who you're building for. Personas help by giving you a sense of the tasks your different users carry out and what features they need access to. They also help you to prioritize work by identifying who might need a feature and how critical it is to their work. This is a map of value and technical difficulty. It helps guide you on what features to provide. I found this on Salesforce, and I use it myself. It's very helpful. It's also important to know, how will your work be used? Are they sitting at their desktop, glancing at their watch between meetings, looking at their phone, holding an iPad while walking through a store, or sitting at a conference table while meeting with a customer? Chances are someone who's using their phone to do something or get an update will need information and actions that are different from when they're at their laptop or desktop. It is well worth your time to find out. By finding out, you increase your engagement, adoption, and success with them. Lightning Experience record pages give us the option of choosing different configurations and components with consistency to support our users. So think about this and put this in your designs. There are 3 design areas to consider. Just like in a painting, with our Lightning design, we have surface, structure, and purpose. The paints and colors are our surface. We have themes now. We can do brand colors. We can use specialized fonts. The composition is our structure, providing the user story and guiding them through. Then the canvas becomes the purpose, goals, and desired actions. To pull all this together, there is a design process. A good process for design is to define, ideate, prototype, and then test. Similar words that follow the SDLC lifecycle, but they take a step back and add purpose and thoughtfulness to the design development. It is analysis, but you're defining its purpose. It is design, but you're ideating the design so that it is understandable. You're implementing and coding, but you're also making a prototype that functions thoughtfully with success in mind. by designing as little as possible, reducing technical debt. Then you test and maintain. If you have designed something aesthetic in this process, then it helps to engage your user. I wanted to touch base on someone that I enjoy learning from at this point. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know how many of you know him. He's a great guy to follow. He always makes me laugh. I like him because he has style, but also because he's straight to the point on things, especially in business. This is how he approaches business decisions. Design is a type of business decision. And like he says, it has the possibility of being imperfect. And there'll be a point at which you need to adjust. One thing he does, which is important not to forget, is you have to choose and then go with it. This probably would also help you with scope creep if you ever have that issue. Salesforce does 3 releases a year. Think about it. I'm not saying that you should redesign your pages 3 times a year. What I am saying is that business and needs change eventually. What you have so lovingly built will probably need to change as the business grows. That's normal, and it's a very good thing. So for those future designers and admins following in the footsteps of your work, please be kind and create good documentation for them to follow so they can keep building on your great work. So now that we know no technical design is perfect or everlasting while we are striving for perfection and thoughtfulness in design, I thought I'd give you some suggestions to help provide structure to your pages. Know your use case. Understand how the information on the page will be used. Prioritizing your content, organizing it to highlight the most important information. You're going to want to group related content together to make it more efficient for users to work with it. Some other things to think about are maybe putting long descriptions or functional quick views on the side panels. Things like stages or status, maybe put near your action buttons on the upper right-hand side. Data that's updated more often, place it higher on the page because your users, that's what they need first. They don't want to have to scroll all the way to the bottom or go through multiple tabs to get there. So make it easy for them to do their work. Another thought is consolidated headers, but don't forget that they're based on profile. So make sure whatever you put in there makes sense and that everyone has access to it that's going to be looking at that record. This structure will help make your pages more aesthetic, understandable, provide purpose, and help keep you from over-designing. Some examples of components, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with already. We have a header, and there's buttons, there's custom tabs, also guidance for success, tabs that you can put in. Think about how the user uses these and what they need. Is it a more advanced user, someone just getting started? What kind of guidance? What way are they using it? And how can you provide that information so it's actionable and helps them do their work? You can't provide everything on a single page and meet all needs for everyone, which is why these points are important. Make it aesthetic, understandable, purposeful, and design as little as possible. Last, I want to leave you with some tools and ideas for building these pages. And here they are. By integrating features to increase efficiency, you allow users time to focus on what they need to focus on. Be aware of what Salesforce is developing or using, what features have been released, what Salesforce is planning on moving off of in the next year or so, and have a plan for your org and know your roadmap. We all have a common interest in helping and supporting other women in tech. I want to thank all of the allies who are attending. We cannot make progress and provide opportunities without your being active partners, so thank you.
So with the increasing use of cell phones to conduct business, how vital would you say it is for someone starting out in Salesforce to familiarize themselves with the Lightning platform?
I'd say it's critical to business. You have to think about your customers. Your customers want to, and your customers are on 2 sides, so your company, but they're also your company's customers. How are they using the information? So, and nobody has patience to go through, multiple pages or try to dig through things. So you really want to make it simple and actionable and make it easy for them to get the information they need to do what they need to solve the business problem or to drive the business forward.
seeing as how you are such an accomplished admin, what would you say is the first step that one should take when wanting to start a career in that path? I find that a lot of our draw is not only for people experienced within Salesforce, but for women who are looking to carve a career for themselves.
Thank you. Thanks for asking the question. So, and I want to sort of, with a caveat, tell you, I am still on my journey of being an accomplished admin. I am able to do things because of the knowledge that's shared by others that they so unselfishly share. And through all the different ways that Salesforce and people involved in Salesforce Ohana, provide that knowledge. My journey started with, I was a kind of a super user, but I told the company I was with, hey, you need to use Salesforce, so I had to learn it. Went on to Trailhead. Whenever I had to work with their tech support, I wrote down and took notes on everything I had to do. I went to every seminar I could. A lot of the companies have Friday seminars through Salesforce, as well as they have these sort of drop-in sessions where you can give them problems. Communities are awesome. YouTube, Google, become a good, strong Googler. But the other thing that sort of helps support my career is I'm a really big goal setter. I write annual goals for myself, and then I use sort of bullet journaling to help follow it up. I try to be kind to myself for these goals. Try to put goals in there that cover not just my professional career, but also my personal life. And I give myself softballs in there too, because I think as women and humans, we need to treat ourselves well. So I'll give myself goals that I know I can attain, and a little bit harder goals to push myself. So I think first thing is Trailhead. Also, another thing I would suggest is talk to a bunch of other people in the Salesforce environment. See what the different kind of roles are. See what they like about it, and make sure you use your strengths. You're getting into Salesforce for a reason. For me, it's because I love solving problems, and I love the whole kind of operational intersection with technology. But hear these other voices, and that will help give you advice and guidance, and help you decide which way you want to go in the Salesforce world.
No question, but I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed that presentation. It was really really thoughtful, and it's very nice to see things that that I also know to be true, to be verbalized by someone, right? She expressed it very, very nicely. So thank you very much for that. It was really enjoyable.
Thank you. My pleasure. Something I would like to say is I think it's really important when you're working in the Salesforce world, because there's always so many changes and improvements going on, as well as so many new products that are going on. It's really important not to be afraid of trying new things, and even if you're not an expert in it, just try to get some information and knowledge, and build on that knowledge so that you have more opportunities, because these then open up different opportunities to meet people that you like I got to meet Karen, so many of you, but also just open up opportunities in your own career. So it's good to sort of put yourself out there a little bit, and don't worry that you don't know everything, because Salesforce is so big, not everybody knows everything. It's impossible. That's why they have so many huge teams of people. So just do your best and work on it, and then you'll hit your goals.
And one of my questions would be regarding the same, like whenever I see an opportunity, it either says 1 to 3 years of experience, some actually even say 6 years, but is it a good idea to start applying for jobs that say is asking for 2 years of Salesforce experience, but then my experience is only Trailhead and preparation for my certification?
This past spring, I actually taught a class in Pace University, and 50% of the students actually got Salesforce admin certified, and they have been placed. Quite a bit of them have been placed with a role, and you're right. A lot of times, they do say they want 1 or 2 years of experience, but they do actually give priority to certified candidates, even though you might not have that level of experience under your belt. I think it just shows a level of dedicated focus that you have for that trade, and not just like, oh, I have some free time for an hour, 2 hours here with Trailhead. But I think when you have that certification, people can tell that that might be your career focus.
Hi everyone. So actually, just Karen mentioned that she was taking the classes for Pace University. So definitely, I was one of the student. So like I was listening to whole of the session. First of all, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Jen. Like it was wonderful insights about Lightning experience, and Karen for the networking opportunities. It was really great to listen. So coming back to the Akriti question, Akriti, actually, I started like as same as you are doing, like doing the trailhead and doing the batches. Like I started in March 2020. Definitely, like you're totally on your right track. Do the batches as much as you can. Do the super batches. Super batches are a great way to start. Increase the more and more experience for you, and do the certifications, administrator, app builder, and just like don't go from that like online questions or online dumps thing kind of thing. Just take the batches and like try to do that as much as you can, so that will definitely help.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you, Jen. You guys were both fantastic. So yeah, we'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow or at our next Women in Salesforce meetup.